Nothing. Okay. All right, Kasul, knock it off. Okay, welcome to Penniless Sojourner. You want to know what's on my mind? There's 43 million people supposedly who will be suffering, be starving because of this food program SNAP ending.
Oh,
43 million, dear.
43 million. Yeah, that's one, and we did the math before we came on, so that's one out of every 7.5 people who are receiving some sort of SNAP food. I don't even keep up with what the food. I get lost on this. People are going to have to help me out. I don't know the difference between food stamps, SNAP, bridge cards, EBTs. I don't know the difference between any of it. And shame on me for not knowing the difference, but I've been, well, I guess I've been happy to stick my head in the sand and forget about the amount of people who are freeloading the system. So,
But what I'm reading is a lot. 43 million will be affected that are receiving food stamps, and to me, it's people should be upset about 43 million people are on food assistance. That just blows my mind.
well, it's 1 in 7.5. It's 13% of the population.
It just blows my mind.
And this is one of those things, right? We can never really get to the bottom because I don't know how the government separates all of this. So we're kind of free winging this right now, but I don't know how this is separated. So there might just be this amount of people. There might be the 43 million that are on food stamps, but there are other, I'm assuming, state benefits and other programs that people also qualify for. So yeah, hard to believe. Hard to believe.
I mean, I realize that there are people out there that are actually disabled and truly need help. They're disabled. They're missing limbs or they're, I don't know, but they senior citizens that they need help. But 43 million. I mean, honey, you remember when the children were little? We had 5 children.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, we did.
And we were poor.
We were poor. Yeah.
How poor were we, dear?
Well, we were so poor that I drove a car. I think we paid $350 for it. It was a little Dodge Charger, not the ones that you guys are familiar with today. This is from the Boomer and Gen X generation. These were the little 4-cylinder Dodge Chargers, and I bought this car for a song and a dance from a person that I worked with, but it was supposed to have a sunroof. The glass for the sunroof was missing, so I wound up riveting in a piece of sheet metal to cover that hole in the roof.
And it worked for us.
It worked for us, yeah. It never leaked. That was talk about surprising. I did a better job on that than I thought.
What year was that?
I think it was like an 85, 86. Little 2+2. They were called 2+2 Chargers. Here's the other thing. Since we get off on tangents all the time when we're just shooting the bull. And what's really funny is that car, this was a 1986, 1987. It had a computer controlled carburetor on it. And the car got 35 and 36 miles to the gallon every day. We drove that car every day. I mean, you talk about, there's another grift.
It got us from point A to point B.
Oh, for a lot of years. It's actually what allowed us probably to buy the place we have. Is later on when we were able to get enough money to make a down payment on something, or the place we live now. Actually, we've never moved, but yeah, that was the fact that I was driving a car that we owed nothing on. Of course, it was super cheap to insure. But anyway, yeah, that was we were in fact poor. A lot of people, you hear them today, and they're talking about how little of money they had. But my Penny and we both worked full time at the time, and I had gotten drugged through the court system terribly when I got divorced from my first wife. I forget what I came home with out of my check every week, but folks who don't, folks who think that it was just great for boomers and great for Gen Xers, I paid more in child support in what was it, 1997 than most men are paying today. I was paying $1,300 a month in child support, and I was not working a big time, fancy career job. I was an everyday grunt, just like a lot of guys working my hands, a butcher, and not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year by any stretch of the imagination. So I think my take home pay back then was like $120 or $130 a week.
This was after child support.
Yeah, after child support, yeah.
And do you remember how every year the school would send us letters saying, hey, we've looked into it and your family qualifies for free meals, for free breakfast, free lunch, and all you have to do is just enroll and sign up.
And this is one of those things where we refuse to do it because we're from the generations that there was an old saying, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Funny enough, and that's what they're offering you through the school system. And,
Nope.
we told our children back then that nothing is free. Somebody's paying for it somewhere. We are going to pay for your. Our children were allowed to get hot lunch or school lunch one day a week.
One day.
Yeah, and a lot of times they didn't even get that. And this ran into a whole bunch of strange stuff too, right? Because back then it was kind of they were instituting this whole card thing. The children had to have a card to go through the lunch line.
No more cash. They didn't want any more cash. You put the cash into this account, and we're going to issue credit cards.
Yeah.
Lunch cards.
And we didn't allow our children to have a card either. Our children had to pay. We paid. Our children brought the money to school, and the school back then was. They probably wouldn't do this today. They were still willing to bend then, and they just simply wrote our children's names down, and they knew that they had $4 in their account, or $8 in their account, or $12 in their account, and they could get their school lunch. And if they went over, the school system here, then was still kind of small townish. So if they overdrew, they would still let the children have lunch. They would just let us know that we were down $1.50 or whatever. We would send $5 again to the school or something for the school lunches. But yeah, we never. That's one thing. For people out there, we're both proud people. Penny and I both are proud people, and I take a lot of pride in the fact that we did not take or accept government handouts. There's two reasons for that. One is we never felt that we were both able-bodied. We both worked. We both put our noses to the grindstone, and what we could afford is what we could afford.
I mean, the children, what would they take for lunch? They would take what was left over from dinner, whether it was leftover rice with a piece of a chicken, a drumstick,
and the horror of it all. By the time the children were older, by the time the children were in 5th, 6th grade, they packed their own lunches. It's time to learn this responsibility. If you're hungry, there's always food in the fridge. Pack anything out of the fridge for the children to take. It was fair game for them to take to school. If anything was cooked and it was in the fridge, that could be your lunch. And you did. Penny, she certainly kept some stuff in the house that was just simpler for the children to use. You would buy lunch meat here and there. It wasn't common, but you would buy some lunch meat here and there. But generally, yes, it was leftovers that the children were expected to, finagle through, figure out what they wanted to take. And our youngest son, really, he did kind of the one who just skipped lunch at school. Mm-hmm. He grabbed like something small or something simple, but he really didn't want to eat at school. And
I think maybe he was embarrassed that he couldn't get school lunch. So
well, we did hear. This is the thing, parents out there. Anybody who's listening to this, who's still with us and thinking that we're just bashing everybody, this whole caving to your children because they think that they're being looked down upon because they're not getting hot lunch. Or we had it here, we wouldn't let our children take the fluoride treatments at school, and our daughter came home and she was all upset because everybody got the fluoride treatment. And I say this a lot, well, your name's not everybody and you didn't get the fluoride treatment, right? So don't worry about it. And I mean, now she's a crunchy mom. She doesn't want fluoride in her toothpaste. She doesn't do any of that. But we didn't want anything free from the school. The education was bad enough. Um, we talk about this often. If we could change one thing, and I'm not a person. I don't live with the regrets, and I'm not a person who wants to bring up regrets or things that I wished I'd done differently. I don't like to do hypotheticals in a big way, but Penny and I have both kind of agreed that if we had it to do over again, I don't know if we would have been able to afford it initially, but by the time I won custody of my children, we went back to court and fought for custody, and I won custody of my children, of my boys. Um, I would have preferred. We both look back on this. We should have homeschooled, 100%. Get the children out of the school system. Um, it's it really is, folks. It's decaying at a faster. It's ahead of the rest of society. So, get your children home, if it's possible. Live with less, folks. I guess that's the.
But they went to school. They had food in their lunch bags, and you know, for us,
Our children never starved. Our children were never without
it
meals.
just blows my mind the amount of people now that, that I would have never guessed that they were on any kind of food program, and they are. And I look at them.
A lot of them have terrible weight issues. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're not buying the proper foods in the grocery store when they go through the grocery store. And I've got this is kind of interesting. If you think about it, folks, the foods that are probably still the best for you, and I know it's hard to get good food in the United States, but dollar per calorie, the best foods for you are probably still about the cheapest foods in the supermarket. Dollars per calorie. You're overpaying for anything that's pre-made. You're overpaying for anything, all of your lunch meats, all of your deli goods, all of that stuff, folks. You're getting taken to task for it. It's way inflated in price. You can take your money a lot further by avoiding those types of foods, sticking with frozen vegetables and fresh vegetables and some. I'm not a big fruit proponent for the most part, but fresh fruit and some frozen fruit, doing those types of things. Penny will recollect. I had this. I said this. It's been 25 years ago at least that this entire food stamp issue could have been resolved, and it could have been resolved overnight. It could have been very, very easily solved. You wouldn't have hungry people. The food stamps would have almost no value on the open market. I don't know how many people out there. We live in kind of our own little world here because we don't venture out a whole lot. We typically don't read a lot of headlines, although this happens to be in the news currently. Penny's been doing her due diligence to give us things to talk about. But the food stamp issue could have been solved at its inception. The food stamp thing should have just simply been, they should have partnered with stores that wanted to put in an aisle that was going to be food stamp foods and rice, brown rice and beans and frozen
Oatmeal.
vegetables and oatmeal and polenta and Whole Foods, or as close to Whole Foods as what we could get. And no, you're not getting coffee. No, you're not getting soda or pop. No, you're not getting any of these. Well, what do you call them? Convenience foods. There will be no potato chips. There will be. This is people get upset about this, but we have traveled enough to know how poor people live and how poor people eat. We've seen it with our own eyes, and poor people are not eating, drumsticks, the frozen ice cream drumsticks. They're not. This is not how poor people around the world live. Poor people around the world live, well, heavily based in grains and whole grains, and with rice, beans, or corn, stuff like that. And you could have solved this problem years and years ago, because what is the value of that on the secondary market, right? Oh, look, you want to buy my food stamps? Because I know this is going to come as a shock to a lot of people our age, and even maybe slightly younger than us, who have never really been around the food stamp programs, or like us, or around the welfare programs. A lot of people who receive food stamps sell the food stamps at 50 cents on the dollar and just take the money. Meanwhile, they are hooked up with their regular middle class folks who buy them and pretty much get a 50% discount on all their food. So they're buying all their food for 50% off, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Penny? People are, they put these things up for sale and they want the cash. They want to go buy cigarettes or they want to go buy liquor or alcohol. So they sell all or a portion of their food stamps. I, this is a big problem.
You know what's blowing my mind is I'm seeing these people on TV. Well, not on TV.
I was just going to say, we don't have
online.
television.
And they are very healthy people. Very, very healthy.
You mean fat?
Yes.
Okay. Well, healthy's not a.
Well, they're overweight.
Okay.
They are, their children are, and these are all people on food stamps. Well, I can tell you what, in Thailand, there were people who were always looking for food, because when you're from a third world country, that's your first thought when you wake up, is where your next meal is coming from. And I can tell you, people who are starving are not
Picky.
overweight,
And they're not
nor
picky.
are they picky.
Yeah.
You know what? I am seeing so many people in their nearby communities that are, oh, well, I went to the food pantry and this is what I got. And, well, my children won't eat it. I wouldn't even eat it. What am I going to do with a bag of dried beans? I deserve more. It just shocks me, because,
Well, I don't know why you're shocked.
well, they're not hungry.
Well,
there's
that's
no
true.
way. There's no way they can be hungry if they're being so darn picky.
That is true. That's you always want if you want your meal to taste better. Just if you didn't do a great job of cooking your meal, make your husband wait longer for it. It'll taste better the longer he waits for it.
But they're not grateful. So you went to the food pantry and you brought home this big paper bag full of food, and you're not going to eat any of it because you don't like anything in there, and your children refuse to eat it. So you're saying we're starving. We're just starving.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not starving.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. That's anybody who says that their children won't eat something, I can tell you right off, your children that are not hungry. And you've created the beast. As far as your child not liking things, you've allowed them. Don't get me wrong, we all have likes and dislikes, but you've allowed your children to dictate what it is they're going to eat. Most parents have been dictated to by their children about when their children are going to eat. And thank goodness we didn't have that problem. That never even took foothold in this household. Dinner time was when dinner time was. Breakfast was when breakfast was. There wasn't.
Well, dinner time was usually around 6 o'clock, and the children all knew. Well, they've gotten their homework done. They're outside playing.
They better be home by 6.
If they want to eat. Because it's not coming in and eating whatever hour you want to eat. No, this is dinner time. And you know what? Didn't come in, if you didn't come home and you didn't have dinner, well, you're not getting anything else to eat. It's just no way. No.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got a double-edged sword there, though, because if word like something like that would get out today, I mean, there's going to be people in the audience, people who listen to this, who think that that's just cruel. And all I can tell people is that that's just the way the world has operated for thousands of years, eons, is that families ate together. Yes, sometimes somebody wasn't available. Maybe dad was off doing something or still working late. The family still sat down and had dinner, right? And these are things that we have to kind of get back to. We always say we want to leave on a positive note. We don't want to sit here and bitch and complain about the way that the world functions. But all I can tell you, folks, is just because the world is functioning a way doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. We didn't. And yes, we were certainly treated as kind of the odd men out. We were the strange folks on the block, no doubt. But that really, I mean, here we are, and it's 25 years later. It's 20 and 25 years later, and do we feel any lesser because people on the block thought that we were strange? No, no, I don't. We get along with our neighbors just fine. We don't have any issues with our neighbors, and I mean, all of that was it was. We never lost any sleep over it anyway. But folks, if you're losing sleep, oh my gosh, dogs are missing us. If
You
you're
think, you think maybe it has a lot to do with women or fathers not knowing how to cook?
oh yeah, I think cooking, which is maybe the most important skill that you have as far as the health and happiness of your family, is something that's been kicked out. I mean, that can's been kicked down the road a long time ago. What's funny is that it's this is this is a subject we could get into, right? For all of the people who have these fancy kitchens, they've got to have. We've seen it ourselves. And people that we know have bought houses, and they buy these houses with the intent of we're going to entertain, and you just kind of look and you go, who are you entertaining? Neither of you cook. And we're at a well, we're not now. I think it's faded somewhat, but certainly in the 2010s and stuff, cooking shows were everywhere, and everybody thought that they were a backyard chef. You know, that was kind of how things went, and it's so funny because you go, I don't. The people I know, the vast majority of them, don't cook that many meals. Their cooking of a meal consists of throwing something in the oven and waiting 40 minutes and it's done. And whether that's a pizza or a Stouffer's lasagna or whatever it might be. And folks, you're shortchanging yourself, you're shortchanging your children big time. Take the time to cook meals, cook real food.
I mean, do you remember how one night I would make spaghetti and I keep the sauce separate from the noodles?
Yes.
Right? Well, the next day with that leftover spaghetti sauce, I would turn it into chili.
Yeah.
I'd add beans to it, more tomatoes, some green peppers, and I'd make a big pot of chili.
Well, I think what you're saying there is that people think that cooking is going out and buying every ingredient that you need and then following a recipe. That's true. That's the lowest level of cooking. Lowest level of cooking is going out and buying every ingredient you need, putting together the dish that you're reading out of a book or that you saw online. The highest level of cooking is creating things with what's on hand.
Being able to open up the refrigerator, open up your pantry door, and what do I have to work with? What can I use?
And yes, that is. I am going to say right now that is 100% a lost art. We have numerous friends. We have family members who won't eat leftovers. I mean, I don't. Where does that come from? Where does that come from?
I don't know where that came from.
Talk about not being appreciative. What a waste to throw food away. And then I'm sure some of these people do this and then complain that they're going to be hungry if they don't get their SNAP benefits anymore. That's what I'm assuming, that a lot of these people too. They don't probably eat leftovers. It seems like it's a very posh thing nowadays to not eat leftovers. We don't eat leftovers.
Well, I would make from the spaghetti sauce. I would turn it into chili, and then if I had a lot left over, what I would do, I'd add elbow macaroni to it to make it like
Goulash.
a goulash.
Yeah.
A goulash. And then we'd have some bread with it and a salad or...
Well, here, our children got every vegetable under the sun, right? And I mean, even some vegetables that I'm not all that fond of. But the one thing that I've grown to appreciate over time is there are vegetables, there's fruits and vegetables that I'm not crazy about, but there's very few of them that I can't eat. I mean, if you prepare it, I eat it, right? This whole picky thing has to go away. This stuff is not going to kill you. I'm not a big fan of zucchini or yellow squash. I don't think they're terrible. I'm just not a big fan. You've cooked it plenty of times throughout our relationship. You put it on my plate, I eat it. It's not like I think, oh, this is the worst thing she could have cooked. I don't think that at all. You eat what's available, and you grow it. You grow it every year in the garden. We have yellow squash and zucchini every year. The neighbors grow it and get too much of it and bring it over, for heaven's sakes. So I eat zucchini because we're not going to throw it out. We're not going to waste it.
And the children know. Well, Mom and Dad, Mom made this dinner, and it's good enough for mom and dad to eat it. It's not poison. Mom and dad are eating it. And any of our children, they think that mom is feeding them poison. Well, they're just not going to eat then. Well, you know what? That food is not going to waste, because what happens?
It gets turned into something else.
Or they wrap up their plate and it goes in the refrigerator, and the next mealtime, what do? They take it out,
They get to look at it all over again. And if you think food is bad, if you think it's bad, like if you don't like it from its onset, from the outset, you don't like it originally. It's going to be even worse when it's reheated. I mean, come on now. You know what I mean? It was better when it was fresh and it was freshly put on your plate. It was certainly better then. The only exception to that is like soups and chili, stuff like that
But
age as well. But
it only took each of the children 1 or 2 times.
yeah, that wasn't something we had to do all that often. They would pull we as they got older, they would attempt the hunger strike thing. They would, I'm not eating it tomorrow either. Okay.
Well, remember the years later when, because we used to sit on, well, we still do. We sit on the low table and with floor cushions around, and Zachary would sit by the vent, the floor vent,
Mm-hmm. And he stuffed his tuna fish sandwich in there.
and he put it down inside the vent.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until years later when I'm vacuuming out the vent, and I'm like, what is this? It was dried up bread and tuna fish.
Which the bright side is, it wasn't eaten by mice, so you didn't have mice in your bed. Yeah. But we're supposed to leave. We're supposed to finish this on a high note, and so the high note is what? What is the high note? I'm just here to tell folks. First of all, this isn't going away. The SNAP benefit thing. Don't get too thrilled about folks not getting SNAP benefits. It's going to reoccur. It's going to rear its ugly head again. You might as well just accept that this is going to be an ongoing thing. You're going to continue to pay for people to eat better than you do. They have way more options than what you do. There's the running joke about if you're in a grocery store and the cart is just overfilled, there's just loads of stuff in there, from pop to Lunchables to whatever else. When that person when they get up to pay, they're going to have food stamps. And folks, it's not. This is not the end of the welfare handout program system in the United States. What I do think the high note of all of this is hopefully some of the people who've had their benefits cut off and are currently trying to figure out what they're going to do, and especially folks who actually need them, because there are people who are in a bad way. There are single mothers. We can all sit here and say, well, it's from their own decisions and it's their own poor judgment. That's true for some. That's not true for all. Some people do actually lose their husbands or lose their significant other. That aside, the people who are in that boat right now and want to change directions, I'm telling you right now, learn to cook. Cook your meals. Stop walking in. Most of these folks, had they planned it all, knowing that this was coming up, that there's been talk about this now, I think for a few months. I don't keep up with this stuff, but should have started stocking away dried goods. But they don't know how to prepare the dried goods. So folks, if you're in that boat and you are somebody who actually is dependent on this, first of all, you can cut your grocery bill dramatically. Just start buying real food. Stop buying prepared foods. Learn to cook. Learn to, what's the word I'm looking for here? Soak your beans and learn how to prepare rice. And there are numerous ways. I'm telling folks, right, you can just throw rice in a rice cooker, have rice. We do that a lot because Penny is Asian. Strange name, Penny, for an Asian. But anyway, there are numerous ways to prepare rice. You don't just have to prepare rice in a rice cooker. You can roast it first, and you can soak it and then drain it and add a squeeze of lemon and a little bit of butter in it as it does its final soak, and cook it from there. Lots of things you can do with rice and beans and polenta. And the kicker of all of this is not only are you going to learn to cook, your family's going to be healthier. your children are going to be healthier. Your children are going to be able to pay more attention. Your spouse is going to be able to pay more attention. So just just put some effort in. Learn. What do you think, Penny? That just learning to cook, right? Learn to truly cook.
Basic ingredients. Learn to cook the basic foods.
Yeah, yeah. So hold on, is that it for this? That's it?
Yep.
We're done with this episode?
Yep.
Just
So
like that?
we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye.